is our candidate for West Coast Jurong West GRC, a dynamic voice for progress and unity. Please welcome Sani Ismail.
In the last general elections in 2020, the PAP won 61% of the votes, but occupied 89% of the seats. That is a super majority. The super majority status of the PAP in Parliament means that they can do what they like, when they like, and how they like, and we Singaporeans cannot do anything about it. That's not right, is it? No, that surely isn't right, is it? This has to stop. And you know what upsets us? The PAP of today is not like the visionaries of the first generation of leaders. They are not like Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, or Dr. Goh Keng Swee, or Dr. Ahmad Mattar, or Mr. S. Rajaratnam, or Dr. Tan Cheng Bock. The PAP of today had raised the GST, which hurts us most. Not once, not one time, but twice, 1 year after the other. And then give away some vouchers at us, hoping that we will shut up. Be quiet, go sit in the corner, and be happy with your CDC vouchers.
We pay such a high healthcare cost in Singapore through a plethora of payment schemes. We pay via MediSave. If we don't have enough MediSave, our children's MediSave. We pay by Medishield Life, private insurance, and if all these are gone, we pay cash, cold hard cash. One of my residents told me, this is so confusing because they do not know what comes from where and what pays to what. So confusing, even for me. What more the elderly people that I see in my ward. Agree? On top of this, with all the scholars in the PAP, they come up with even more complex schemes like Pioneer Generation, Merdeka Generation Packages and Charts. These are good programs, don't get me wrong, but it's confusing to us. And with all these schemes in place, is it enough to pay for the healthcare costs? Let me share with you the figures. According to the World Health Organization, in 2019, let me quote, the healthcare expenditure paid by our government is about 43%. But in other developed nations, the OECD countries, their government pays 75%. This is a stark difference between a first world country and Singapore. But the government claims that they are a first world nation.
We have had tough issues with the rising of the GST over the last 3 years. How many of you like the fact that GST has gone up? That's what I thought. Nobody likes that. But we need to make sure that every cent that is collected, however it is collected, goes to what matters most. Education, healthcare, housing, and above all, dignity for our Singaporean core. At the same time, we also need to build trust. Trust that the system actually works, that it is fair, that it doesn't let people fall through the cracks because there is red tape.
It will protect our local workforce against a high cost of living, inflation. Singapore is an open economy. There is nothing very much we can do to protect ourselves against it. We need to implement the feasibility study of a minimum wage. And no, I did not say that it was going to be $300 like in China. How could I? That's just not possible. I did not say that.
And I recall the story of a taxi uncle I met who said that because his son did not qualify for the high entry exam for a medical school here, he had to exhaust his savings to send his son across to UK to study, and there's a chance that the son may not come back. A father who has spent his entire savings to better the son's life may never see his son ever in the immediate times that he's aging while he's busy being a doctor overseas. The problem of brain drain that we are not even talking about. And yet, when there is a manpower crunch, we look everywhere but Singapore. Is that the policy that we want to continue? And when there is this manpower crunch, it gets compounded by hospitals who have to delay the admission intake of our elderly parents, our uncles, our aunties. And in a 2024 report, it is said that the National University Hospital and Ng Teng Fong had to put up signs at their emergency departments telling patients they have to wait as long as 60 hours for a bed. Is this acceptable? What is our manpower minister with all his experience in the medical industry doing for Singaporeans?
30 years ago, about that time, the government called for support. They call it, if you remember, seniors, total defense. Remember that? Yeah. So we chiong lah. We support lah. We defend. We protect the country, the economy. But then now, the PAP 4G, what they want from us, and they say to us, total depend. Depend on the voucher. You depend on the scheme. Do you want that or not? Memang you say you want, you take after you use lah. But then, you don't want this forever, right? No. Yeah, cash. Definitely. Now, how long do you think you can go on like this, accepting voucher? But then, if you have a better salary, high salary that we had before, enough to cover our cost of living, would that be better?
There are two key issues that is close to my heart that is affecting most Singaporeans. One is cost of living. The other one is job availability to Singaporeans. First, I touch on the first issue, cost of living. In 2020, GE 2020, and now GE 2025, I compare the two prices. Kopio in 2020, how much? 90 cents. Now how much? $1.40. How much is it gonna buy? 50%. Chicken rice. In 2020, $3. And now how much? $13. $4.50, $5. How much is it gonna buy? 50%.
Salary don't have.
Yes. Look at nasi biryani. Last time $4. Now minimum $6.50, $7 or more. How much gone up? More than 50%. Everything gone up. What has not gone up? Salary, right? Can tahan or not?
I find it astounding that NTUC supported the deal while being unaware of the capital reduction exercise to the tune of $1.85 billion. This is not $1.85 thousand. It is not even $1.85 million. It is $1.85 billion that they are planning to take out of income insurance. In my opinion, both NTUC and Income did not perform their duties responsibly on a mega scale. And I suspect that if any of these were to happen during the time of our first generation leaders, heads would have rolled. I also found it rather worrying that CPIB merely issued warnings to 6 capital executives because it was unable to find sufficient evidence to charge them, even though the company paid over $400 million in penalty in US for bribery. 187 people came down with food poisoning after eating Total Defense Day meals, but the investigations by the authorities were unable to find evidence linking the meals to the food poisoning. This is also cause for concern. Is our public service falling in competence as compared to before? There are many instances telling us that it is important for us to have more opposition in Parliament to check on the government.
And also when you go to marketing of housewives, they tell me $30 I can't buy much. These are genuine problems. So I think we hear you, but they didn't hear you. And the evidence is so clear. Look at the budget. Look at the budget. We had a surplus of $6.4 billion. Now that is significant. They increased the GST from 7% to 9%. And yet they got the $6.4 billion back as a surplus. That means they are not listening to you. Because if they had listened to you, it would at least stay at 7%. So they did not listen.
The government's current policy is that when HDB builds a new flat, it must put the cost of the land into the reserves. Well, no problem, and I'm sure many of our parents and grandparents wouldn't mind, or at least in the end they accepted that the government has acquired the land for the good of the country. However, now the government is selling back the land to us at very high cost.